I do have a sad note that I want to bring up and acknowledge if it's okay with you. And just say a few words because Scott Adams passed away on Tuesday morning. And as an IT and computer support guy, like Tyler and I were talking about, I, of course, related to his Dilbert comic strip going back to the late 90s and the 2000s, right? It showed the absurdity of corporate office life, and I think everybody knows the comic Dilbert strip, but he wrote a book, which I discovered, I don't know, 10 years ago, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. And it was a contrarian guide that embraced failure as a counterintuitive path to success. But the really big one was a book called Reframe Your Brain. He wrote a book called Reframe Your Brain. I have a copy of it here, and it changed how I look at the world. It says it's the user interface for happiness and success. But here's what Scott looks like. He passed away this Tuesday. But it changed the way I look at the world, and I have passed several lessons from this book on in several of my videos. This is where I got the idea that being embarrassed is good for you. And with your permission, I would like to read one of his reframes from this book and share with you an example of what these reframes do for you. So let me just read page 88. And it'll only take a minute because it's a very easy breezy book to get through. This reframe is one I have used with great success. Like many of the reframes in this book, it looks too easy to be true. I don't mean to make any of this sound like magic because any one person's success with a reframe is hard to predict. But in the unlikely event your brain is wired like mine in this specific respect, you might be surprised how well this reframe works. The usual frame is, I worry something will go wrong. The reframe is, I'm curious what will happen. If you succeed in switching your thoughts from your past to your imaginary future, you run the risk of generating anxiety about how things might turn out in your future. I advise you to only imagine positive outcomes, but being human, you will have some worries about the future as well. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, accept that you live in a world where things usually go wrong, at least a little bit, and instead try to treat the future as a curiosity. What will happen if I do this versus that? You can quickly gamify, which means to turn into fun, the ambiguity of the future. Just keep telling yourself it'll be interesting, and you can't wait to find out what will happen. Can you really gamify something just by wanting to? Yes, it's a thing. For example, with the advent of streaming TV apps, I found myself angry and frustrated every time I wanted to watch something. The chosen app would need an update, or it wouldn't work on the device I wanted to use, or it would say I'm already logged in, or my password wouldn't work. After a few years of that nightmare, I reframed watching TV as hacking into my own account. I'm no longer a frustrated consumer with several streaming apps that have poor user experiences. Now I'm a skilled hacker who will use every resource at his disposal to break through the user interface of the sign-in process. My dopamine hit comes from successfully opening an app and using it. I generally find nothing worth watching and call it a night, but at least I got my hacker hit of dopamine. Aren't you curious if the curiosity reframe will work for you? So that's just a one-page reframe, and it's just an example. And I honestly pulled that at random earlier in the day when I was like, I wonder what I'm going to read to these guys from one of my favorite books. And I just, hope I didn't just knock myself online as I drop it on my keyboard there. But I just, what in the heck? I accidentally started up Apple Music. That's what I did. But I just randomly grabbed a random reframe out of the book and said, this is the one I'm going to read to these folks. And you can't go wrong. There's not a bad one in there. So that's that reframe for you. So Scott's books and his daily morning live streams are what ingrained the relentless optimism that I carry through life. in me, and his political enemies have mislabeled him and drawn inaccurate pictures of his perspectives lately. You can't trust politically biased media on either side, so don't go by what the media is trying to draw of him right now. I am going to miss him, and this is to Scott. Cheers if you got something. That's to Scott. So everybody have a great night. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week. Good night.